another video. Sorry for not posting much recently, and there's one good reason for that. I've been writing my bachelor's thesis this spring, winter to spring, so I haven't really found the time and energy to record a video, but I have been buying records. I'll be releasing this video and then another video a bit later, and then I'll take a short break over summer because I'll be going home to my parents and won't have access to my records. But hopefully I can pick up a few records over there, because there actually is a pretty good record store in my hometown. But I have been to a record fair last weekend, so I've been hard at work listening to all these records throughout the week. So I've been basically like spending this whole week just listening to only these records, and now I think I have a pretty good idea about what I think about them. So we're gonna start with a record I've been looking for a long time. When I went to Stockholm, I had this specific record in mind. Went to a lot of record stores in that town looking for it. Couldn't find it, neither at the show. But this time I actually found it, and it's Joni Mitchell Clouds. So this is the last studio album of hers that I needed for my collection. If you don't count Turbulent Indigo, which is one that I really enjoy, but that has not been released on vinyl yet, so I can't get it. But what can I say about this record? It was released in '69, I believe. So good. My favorite track of it is probably The Gallery, and that is probably one of my top 5 songs of all time. So yeah, and this is actually a US original on that Reprise label, so I won't be needing to upgrade this, hopefully ever. It sounds really good, it's in really good shape, probably like VG++. So yeah, this one will go into my collection and never leave. Moving on to the next record, we got this one. It's not as famous record as the Joni Mitchell one. This is Hill Climbing for Beginners by the Water into Wine band, which was sort of I believe they were part of like the Jesus movement in the early 70s. This was released in '74. They do also have another record released in '76, I believe, which is also really good, but that hasn't been reissued yet. And yeah, speaking of reissues, this is a reissue on Spiral Groove, and actually a really good sounding reissue, and I got it for very cheap, so I highly recommend this. In the intro of this video, you can hear one of the songs, which is Hill Climbing for Beginners, the title track, which I really enjoy. Also really love the first track, the opening track, which is called Stranger in This World. But this is sort of as I've said before, they were part of the Jesus movement, so some of the lyrics are Christian themed, but it's not too much, and I'm not a religious person, so sometimes if it's like too religious, it might be a bit too much. But this is on a good level. The Christian theme sort of makes it kind of spiritual, and I would classify this as sort of acid folk, although it's not overtly, or although it's not too psychedelic. It has a special kind of quality to it, which I think is defining of the acid folk genre. So yeah, Hill Climbing for Beginners by the Water into Wine band. Check this one out if you haven't. Moving on, we got another reissue. We got The Velvet Underground, self-titled, a record that I knew a few songs of that I really enjoyed. That is the more famous tracks. You got on side 1 Candy Says, what a track, then Pale Blue Eyes, and also the final track of the album, After Hours, which is a song about like social isolation, which I really relate to, and I think it's a great track. It sort of sounds like something that would be released in like the 2000s, some alternative indie bedroom sort of stuff, but released in, don't even know what year this was released in. Could it be 69 as well? I don't really know, but in the late 60s, I'm pretty sure. But one track that I hadn't heard before or not paid too much attention to is Murder Mystery. It's a quite long track. It's almost 9 minutes, and it's super good. Kind of psychedelic, avant-garde, noisy, changes directions and all sorts. A very good track. So yeah, what more can I say about this album? The Velvet Underground, self-titled. Moving on, we actually got a compilation. This is a compilation of Pentangle, the history of Pentangle. So it sort of follows their history, starting off with some Bert Jansch and John Renbourn tracks, and then moving on to the Pentangle tracks. I got this for really cheap, €5. So Pentangle is the band I'm trying to get into. Haven't seen any of the records for a good price yet, but I found this, so I thought this would be a good starting point, and then I can sort of experience the other albums a bit later. But yeah, the history of Pentangle. I don't really know much about this pressing, but for $5 and in fairly clean condition, I couldn't say no. So yeah. Next up, we got another sort of acid folk album, or by some acid folk folks, but this isn't too much acid folk, sort of more folk, rock, pop, folk pop, I would probably categorize this as. It's Pearls Before Swine with City of Gold, and I hadn't listened to this record before, but actually the morning before I went to the record show, I listened to some of their earlier stuff, and that is a lot more experimental. This is much more straightforward. Their earlier works was released on ESP disc. This is Reprise. So ESP disc was a label that sort of put all the creative freedom in the hands of the artists. So maybe that's why this record isn't as far out as the other ones, because they had some pressures from the label. I'm not really sure, but I still think this is a very solid album. The songs I enjoy the most are probably Raindrops and Seasons in the Sun. So yeah, Pearls Before Swine with City of Gold. Moving on, we got Revolver, and I already had this album on vinyl, but the pressing I had was really bad. It was some weird bootleg I bought in the beginning of my collecting journey, and I didn't really listen to it, which is a shame because it's such a good record. But I finally got an upgrade copy. This is some mid-70s reissue on Parlophone. Great condition, sounds incredible, and I'm glad to have this record now so that I can listen to it as much as it deserves to listen to. I don't really know if I should go into what tracks I like on this album, since they're pretty much all 10 out of 10s, but my favorites are For No One and for the psychedelic touch, Tomorrow Never Knows. But yeah, the Beatles' Revolver. We got 3 records left. Next up is actually a live album. I've talked about before how the Jefferson Airplane is one of my favorite bands, and I found this for a good price. This is Bless Its Pointed Little Tail. I've heard a lot of good stuff about this record, that it does capture the live essence of the Airplane. I was obviously not around back in the days to experience it live, so I gotta do it through records. But yeah, I really love this. It's such a tight sound, and it does give me a more free feeling compared to their studio albums. So to mix up their studio records with some live action is definitely appreciated. But if you haven't heard this, definitely check it out. The sound on it is great, and the music is probably even greater. In my psychedelic record collection video, I believe I showed the Birds, but at that time I only had the compilation, because I just haven't been feeling buying their studio records, because there's been so much other stuff I wanted to buy. But I finally mustered up and bought Mr. Tambourine Man, and this is of course not a expensive record. It has been other records have been prioritized before it. But yeah, the Mr. Tambourine Man, Mr. Tambourine Man by The Birds. Great record, so many good tracks. And yeah, so all of those who commented on my first video saying that I should pick some other studio albums up, here is one, and hopefully I'll add a few more to the collection in the coming years, maybe coming months, coming years, we'll see. The final record is one that I had never heard about, seen, and obviously not heard as well, but it's called The Road Home by The Peaceful Children, released in '71. When I bought it, it had a sticker here which said psychedelic rock, and with the label psychedelic rock, a cheap price tag, this cover, The Peaceful Children, it looked like sort of a perfect hippie record. But I was very disappointed when I put it on. It's not psychedelic rock at all. It's kind of soft rock, slow rock. It sounds very generic, but yeah, it was nice to experience something I've never heard about before. But I can't say I recommend this one. But all the other records I've shown in this video are highly recommended. 10 out of 10's, incredible music. But yeah, that was all my pickups from the record show. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next. Leave a comment what you think about these records, recommendations, thoughts, whatever. Leave it down in the comments, and subscribe and leave a like, and I'll be really happy. So yeah, see you next time.